we're live. We are live on the show. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for joining on a special edition of ABL Live on Thursday. I know I normally come at you on Wednesday, Saturday, but I'm here on the Thursday because we have a very special guest, Miss Quisha King. Before I introduce her, I just want to say the issue of school indoctrination is very, very serious. It's impacting all of us. I've done many videos on the issue of indoctrination in school. You got these kids, they're not learning ABCs, they're learning LGBTQ, ABCD. There was a picture I saw, Quisha, of a school, like a chalkboard. On the chalkboard, it was all a bunch of banners, flags and posters and LGBT flags, everything except for any kind of work. It's like, well, what are we doing in school?
Yeah.
Is it about education or indoctrination? Now, before I go too deep in the rabbit hole, introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I got into this education fight in 2020, but I do want to mention a little bit before that. So right after the 2016 election, I was having a conversation with a close family member. We were talking about BLM, and at this point in time, I was like a full-on liberal and believed everything on CNN. And we were talking about black on black crime, and I said I was going to go look up the numbers. I go to look up the numbers of, unarmed police shootings and crime in black neighborhoods. And I was like, okay, clearly there's more of a problem over here with black on black crime. And so it just prompted me to start doing a bit more digging. I found Dr. Thomas Sowell. He's like the entry point, I guess, for all black conservatives,
Yes, of course.
But I found Dr. Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, and Milton Friedman. And I was just like, oh my God, like, where have I been? And so, took it to my family. It's like, we can't vote for these people. And that didn't go so well. But long story short, just started getting involved. And in 2020, I ran the Black Voices for Trump office in my city here. And of course, we know everything that was happening in 2020. So when I started hearing these things, so I have two daughters, and my oldest daughter was like, Mom, the teacher asked me what pronoun do I want to go by? And I'm like, what? Like, that's wild. So I emailed the teacher. She never emails me back. And I told my daughter, I said, well, just be vigilant, like, no biggie, but be vigilant. Because by this time, when I had my big epiphany, and let me also add, simultaneously, well, not simultaneously, but after I had the epiphany of the political scene, I had a spiritual transformation, I guess, too, where God was like, your skin color has become an idol in your life. And that just really messed me all up. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, this whole race thing is nonsense. It's just another way of, basically God just showing his variety. It's no big deal, but society makes it this big deal. Anyway, so told my daughter, be vigilant, and most teenagers don't listen, but I had started to talk to my children a bit differently. And I started to reconnect with them over the years. So she was really confident and competent on standing up for herself in the classroom. So she records a conversation where the teacher is like, we're going to be going over some books with some racial themes. Okay, no biggie, right? So she proceeds not to mention the books, but she starts to point out the children and say, oh, little Johnny, as an African-American child, how are you oppressed? As an LGBTQ child, as an Asian child. She mentions every child but the white kids. So they don't get an oppression, they don't get a call out for oppression, because with critical race theory, you're white, you are the oppressor. And so the kids just started going back and forth with each other, and they're like, no, I'm more oppressed. No, me. And it was just wild. And I knew at the time what I was hearing, because the year before I'm kind of a nerd on some things, and I had come across critical race theory. And a minister that I follow was talking about it and talking about, where it comes from. And I just happened to be interested in it, knew it when I heard it. And so started going to school board meetings and speaking out about it. And so that's kind of how I got into the scene. There's more to the story, but we can get into a little bit more of that as we go.
Definitely. So if you're just now coming in, welcome to Thursday ABO Live. I'm with Quisha King, and we're talking about school indoctrination, a really big issue that has impacted the entire nation. And, you know, people talk about a lot of different things. They say, well, hey, just go do homeschool. Well, that's a great option, but let's be realistic. Not everyone has that option.
That's right.
75% of mothers in the USA work. So, you know, it's difficult. And also, people say, well, how about private school or private Christian school? Well, I've heard some horror stories about private Christian schools, private expensive Christian schools. I've seen drag queen story time. I've done videos about drag queen story time at private Christian schools. They got videos of the drag queens in church, in the pulpit.
Yes.
I saw one video of a church with children, and it was some kind of drag hymn. It was about 10 drag queens in the church singing the hymn they made for the drag queens. I'm like, man, this is crazy. This is out of control. And at a certain point, we got to do something, because it's like you got a big snowball just rolling downhill, collecting snow. If there's anything in the path, it's just swallowing it up. Okay, you got a private school over here, charter school over there, K through 12, and then college, and then you're getting into the actual workplace. So the kids who were brought up in K through 12 being indoctrinated, they're going to the workplace. They're bringing the pronouns with them. They got all kind of stuff. Call me it, them, pup, zer.
He, them.
You see Jeopardy the other day? They had it was a question. The question was, or the answer, pardon me, zer, zay, zim, something like that. Yeah, pronouns. And then Ken Jennings is like, oh, these are neo pronouns on Jeopardy. So it's everywhere. It's impacting. Everywhere. It's all over the place. So I want to ask you, like, you've heard some horror stories. You're talking about your daughter. Have you heard teachers, have they come to you and spoken about it from their point of view? Maybe they're being pressured by administration, by other teachers, anything of that sort?
Yeah. So a teacher slid this to me.
Whoa. Straight from the inside. Wow.
Straight from the inside. So a teacher slid this to me on the low. Anthony, I felt like I was in the mafia, like going to do like some kind of undercover deal. You know, he slid it to me in the envelope. You know, we're looking around, we're in a cafe. Because I mean, this was like at the height of all the things. And where I live is, you know, supposedly conservative, but this was in our school system. And in this book, now this is when they were telling all the parents that we were crazy, and they weren't trying to hide indoctrination from the parents. Well, at this point in time, I was doing a lot of Fox News and I was doing a lot of media. And so I took this on Fox and I said, well, this says here that we are not supposed to, let me just quote it for you. So you guys don't think I'm making it up. It says, upon notification of a transgender or gender nonconforming student's status, school staff should complete a transgender gender nonconforming support in collaboration with the student and parent guardian, if aware, to provide guidance to school staff on how to support the child at school. Reminder, a student's gender identity should never be disclosed without their consent, even to a parent, a guardian. That is in this. Now, not only does this say it's the LGBTQ support guide, if you look down here, hold on, let me get it. It says every school, every classroom, every student, every day. Now, if we put that much emphasis on education, every school, every classroom, every student, every day, maybe we wouldn't have the mess that we have, but they don't, because this is the focus. So this is by far probably one of the most blatant, disrespectful disregard of parents, and just full on indoctrination, and saying, yeah, we're not going to tell you if your child is non-conforming, gender non-binary, and zim, all the things. And we got I've seen kitty litter.
No, wait,
I haven't seen it with my own eyes.
Wait, because I've heard the whole thing about kitty litter, and it was an argument. It was an argument. Some said no, that's not really a real thing. There's no kitty litter in the classroom. The kids are not identifying as cats and going and laying in the kitty litter box. So, have you seen the kitty litter?
Okay, so I didn't see it with my own eyes, but my close friends, their children who went to the school, they saw it. And I take their word for it.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they're not making this stuff up. Their children were telling their parents, there is a student where there is a kitty litter box in the classroom for the child.
That's crazy. Now,
and some of them are coming in dressed up like different animals and all this kind of stuff, and they're meowing and barking and doing all kind of foolishness. And we're supposed to just act like this is normal.
That's totally crazy. That's totally crazy. Now, my question would be for the kids who saw this kitty litter box: did the actual kid use it? Like, was it functional or just like decoration? Either way, it shouldn't be a kitty litter box for a human being to do anything with at all. Whether they just, touching it,
they just go and like
they're just playing in it.
Yeah, play in it like move the kitty litter around like a cat or something like that. They don't actually use it, at least not in the classroom. I didn't hear that part, but they're just like playing in the litter.
Oh my goodness.
When they need to, because this is supposed to be, some kind of almost like therapy for them. This is good for them. Oh. This is how they express themselves, So we can't, we can't get them to be comfortable in their own bodies. We got to get them I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this sounds completely crazy to me. We're going to get you to be more comfortable with yourself by making you believe that you're something else or someone else. I don't know about you guys, but that is stupid.
Absolutely 100% crazy. Yeah. And it was bad enough during my time when the Ritalin and whatnot, a lot of the drugs got brought into school. That's better enough. But now it's like they're doing that, they're keeping that stuff and adding on a lot more. And I think ultimately the education is being sacrificed because the purpose of school, from what I was taught, and I think you taught the same thing, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those are the basics. And we can build on other education that makes sense for you in your life from there. But now that seems to be kind of going the way the dodo bird, kind of going extinct. I saw another video of an educator. He went viral before. I forget what the first one was, but the second video I saw, he said kids are 13 to 14 years old and they're having a hard time being able to identify shapes.
Yes.
We're getting to the point of, okay, you got to identify the area of a triangle. But how are you going to do that if you don't know what a triangle is?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about, it's so ridiculous, some of this stuff. It's funny, but on a more serious note, when we're talking about literally children not being able to read, not being able to do basic math, not knowing shapes and, just basic stuff, we are running into some serious problems, and you will begin to see more of this happening. But there are corporations and colleges, some of the people who are actually producing this foolishness, these universities, they're actually going and trying to recruit and hire homeschool kids because the public school kids are just not, they're kind of useless, many of them. And I hate to say it like that because they're children, but it's just the facts, and corporations are starting to look for kids who have been homeschooled. I have heard stories where kids, young adults going into Walmart, and apparently on a Walmart cashier thing, the little pad or whatever, they have pictures and stuff. Like, it's not even numbers. The kids they can't maneuver this picture-based pad. Like, this is where we are at. And just so your audience knows, so many times we'll hear the calls for school reformation and changes in the school, which is, we're going to do the best that we can with that. But American modern public education was imported from Prussia. Do you know about this at all? The Prussian model that America imported?
I have no idea. You got to let me know. You got to inform me.
Okay, so back in the this was like the late 1700s, early 1800s. Prussia, which is no longer in existence, it went into Germany. They lost a war with the French, and they were having trouble with these soldiers who were kind of going rogue, which critically thinking and thinking for themselves. They were being a bit too thinking a little bit too uppity, as we might say in America, and so they wanted to find a way to quell that. Like, how do we get them to just listen to what we say? So they brought in this guy. His name was Johann Fichte, and he created this system where it was to dumb down the students, kill the imagination, and just basically make them minions of the state. Well, this program worked so well that we had some of our, what we like to call as our education founders, like the John Deweys of America. They went over there and they took a look at this system and they're like, I like this. This is going to work pretty well. And regardless of their intentions, although I don't think his intentions were all that great, but they brought this system over to America. And this was the makings of the mass compulsory public schooling. And I emphasize schooling because schooling and education are two totally different things. This schooling was this where one person stands before you who is the so-called expert and is communicating and speaking down to the subjects this material to memorize. That is not learning. That is not educating. Educating, when we had the one room schoolhouse, was when there was kindergartners first. We didn't even really have like grades at that point, but different levels of ages, different age groups coming together, learning information, mixing in with each other because it needed to mimic regular society. Because when you're in a job, when you are out in the world, you are amongst all different types of age groups. You're learning all different types of things. You're not just everybody kind of mixing in with just one group of people, all the 8-year-olds with the 8-year-olds. That's not normal. And so it hinders your growth. It hinders your education. And so this is how we got to where we are. And this system started to fail very fast when it was mass rolled out in the late 1800s. But yeah, this is where we are. This is not how America started out with this mass compulsory schooling system. So anyway, we can get into that another time, but that's the basis of the American schooling system. So the reform that I think that, we're kind of seeking is we have to be realistic and understand that this system is working how it was intended to work. It was never meant to educate our young people. It was meant to make factory workers to work in these big factories for the elite. And they wanted mindless individuals that would just do what they wanted them to do, not really think too much. So that's what we got.
Okay, so do you think the modern education system in America, or indoctrination, whatever you want to call it, do you think that it's outdated? Do you think that we're able to compete in the world? Because I see what's happening overseas, China, like Asia, that particular part of the world, even the Indian subcontinent. I mean, they are really kind of advancing way beyond us. I'm seeing little kids, 5, 6 years old, doing advanced mathematics. They're reading at a high level. Yeah. They're doing a lot of things. So what can we take maybe from other countries or from other models to improve our own model over here?
So I think we need to get back to what America was founded on in the first place. And that is that idea of individualism. And where that starts is in the home. And like you said in the beginning, everybody can't homeschool, but here are some things that you can do. And this is what I did with my children to get them to where they are. My oldest daughter owns her own business, of doing very well for herself. They are both homeschooled now, but they're in a homeschool co-op. And she also has a 9-to-5 job. Now, my youngest daughter is a special needs child. It's a little bit different story, but still light years ahead of her peers. What I started to do was, it's a wild concept. I started to talk to my children. I started to I started to build back the bonds with my own child, with my own babies, and my voice became the bigger voice in their life. So when they heard this kind of wonky stuff going on in the classroom, they didn't lean in. They were like, wait a minute, that this ain't right. And they said, Mom, this is not right. I was doing some very particular things to get them to critically think and not just believe everything that they heard. So when they were in these classrooms, they were able to recognize what was going on and like shield themselves from it. So there is a way to stop this. And one of the things I want to make sure I say is that we've spent a lot of time going externally, school board meetings and policy changes. I was the spokesmom for Moms for Liberty in 2021 and a little bit in 2022, and just seeing this whole seeing the whole thing from the inside of how it works. School boards are a long-term that's a long-term solution. Your kids, no, I don't think you have children, but your audience's children, they're being indoctrinated every day today. They don't really have time to wait 4 years, 2 years for a school board change. So I want to encourage our audience to kind of have a different mindset when you're thinking about this. How can you stop this indoctrination, protect your children today, right now? Because the left is talking to your kids Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 hours a day. They're getting it from the corporations. Like you said, you're going into the different stores and, you're seeing it everywhere, basically. So what can we do today? And we'll talk more about that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So one thing you mentioned was a homeschool co-op. Now, I've heard about these things. And for me, for a long time, I was kind of ignorant to what homeschool really was. I'm thinking it's just, okay, you got somebody's mom and the kids in the corner, and he's just getting read a book, and then that's pretty much it. There's no interaction. Like, I spoke to a homeschool young man. I went to a speaking engagement some years ago. Young man was 16, and I just was talking to him like, hey, okay, you're homeschooled. Like, what do you do every day? He said he had a co-op. He would go to other people's houses, and there was other kids there, and he played sports, and he had a very full life, much different than what I thought it was. So people are asking in the chat, how do you start a homeschool co-op, and what exactly is a homeschool co-op?
Okay, so a homeschool co-op, it's a homeschool cooperative. So you're cooperating with other parents. So what the co-op that I'm a part of, we have one teacher we've hired, and we pay her to educate our children. She's a certified K through 12 teacher, and it's typically small classrooms. So her school is growing so well now because she's becoming, really popular. She's really, really good. She's hired other teachers. And so they have small classrooms that give really individualized learning. So it's not just one grade. So if she has like the high school kids, but it's like 9th through 12th. So it's different grade, different age groups. And that's basically what it is. It's a group of parents that come together, and we hire a teacher or teachers to educate our children. So I tried to do the homeschooling myself, but it was just with my little one. We were just like going at it. I was like, you know what? Let me let somebody else have a shot, and she's doing really well. So it was better for her to do that because it's not a one size fits all. Some parents do really well with the one-on-one. With them educating their own children. And I'm not saying that you can't educate your own children, because a lot of people think like, oh, I'm not equipped. I don't have what it takes. You have everything it takes to teach your own child. My youngest, she's a special needs child. It's a little bit different of a story, but you can certainly educate your own child, and you certainly can do better than what they're doing in the schools. I can guarantee you that. If you do a little bit better, you're doing better than what they're doing in the schools. So you don't have to be some expert. We're really, once you get your kids to learn to read and to do basic math, learning science and history and all that stuff, it's just reading. That is reading. So all the reading and math is pretty much the basics. And once they get that, they can go on and start to read things that they actually care about. When my daughter was walking around the house reading history books for fun because she likes history. Like when you tap into your child's what they really like, not forcing all of this stuff that they don't even need, from the schools. I know you probably remember, you're sitting in class, you're totally uninterested in the stuff that they're trying to teach you. You're not an idiot, but you just aren't interested in that. You have your own ideas, you have your own, innovations and your own things that you are interested in, because, I believe that God made us for a purpose, and we have individual, unique purposes in life, that things that we're wired towards. The schools kill that. They make you conform to, you got to be like everybody else, and it's like, you're naturally not wired that way. And so, but the co-op allows you to, and homeschooling allows for your child to really kind of explore what they're really interested in. And that's why my daughter has her own business today. I guarantee it.
Right on. So at a homeschool co-op, is it at a home or can it be in the building, or like, are we getting more? It's like a private school type situation. We're kind of like, it sounds like you kind of going full circle. Are you going back to the one room where it was K through 12, maybe it's 9 through 12. You kind of going back full circle. So is it always in the house? Is it in a specific building? Is it like a private school where you got to pay a certain amount of money to go to a homeschool co-op? Like, how does that work?
No, I mean, it's kind of just based on what you guys work out. Some are in a home, some are in a building. So she's in a building, but she was at it when she first started. She just had a room at a church. Right. Like it really can be whatever you make it. And because of the laws, the moment you kind of get entangled with, like in Florida, it's a little bit different because we have a lot of leeway here. Because we have a great governor, but in some states you do have, like, if you are a school and you're operating, or if you are any type of school, they want to say, well, now you have to have a certain kind of bathroom, if you know what I'm saying. So it can, as long as you operate it in certain ways, depending on the state that you're in, you can pretty much have free reign. If you keep it in your house, you can do what you do. Get your kids educated, start to get the claws of these systems out of them, so you can really learn who your child is again. I'll tell you, there was a point I was like, I did not really like my kids. They were really, because they were foreign to me. No, I'm so serious. I know you're not supposed to say that, but it's right. Because I didn't know them anymore. I was just like, because they were just becoming and had become.
You're brainwashed.
I didn't raise you this way. I didn't I did not know them anymore. And I had to rebuild that connection. And being in a co-op and certainly homeschooling, you can do that.
So what are some signs that you may see in your children that there's some brainwashing going on? You send your kids to school one way, they bright-eyed, bushy tail, and they come back. Might be something small, and you might not pick up on it. What are some things you can kind of look for to see if there's any kind of brainwashing happening to your children in school?
So you will see them start to sympathize with foolery. Like, because their peers, like they don't want to. What the left has been really good at, and this is a communist Marxist tactic, is being very relational to people. Like, really, there's nothing wrong with it. That's a good thing. Like being relational and connecting to people, that's a good thing. But they do it in a way that's very negative. So, you've probably heard about my lived experience and, those kind of words. So if your friend is telling you, well, my lived experience, as a Black person, it's really tough. And you don't understand because I'm Black and, I had to walk 15 miles in the snow and in the rain, stuff like that. You will start to see your children, who most of these kids, walking around with $1,000 cell phones in their pocket, start to sympathize with these sort of ideas. Oh, well, my friend is, well, they're Black or they're biracial or they're, LGBTQ or they're this, and I can't treat them that way because I don't know their story. They're different than me because of this intersectionality, race, gender thing. So you'll hear them like this sympathetic type of talk, but it's on foolery. It's on race or gender or sex, or the LGBTQ stuff. So that is one of the signs. That's probably the most prominent one that I've seen. The other one I will say is when children become kind of like depression, because you are really, the schools are really trying to force you into being conformed into their image that they want to make you into. And so a lot of kids, they don't know how to deal with that. You're already struggling, to try to figure out who you are. And then, the schools are trying to force you into this thing that's very unnatural. It's very unnatural for you to think that you're a girl when you're a boy. You might be a little okay, I'm a girl, but I might be a little tomboy. I don't like dresses, but I'm still a girl. But they force you into these things. So children can become really depressed. And online, there's a lot of different forums and just websites and stuff that really push these ideas. And so you can see that as well. When they become kind of depressed, that's another sign that they are being something's going on with them.
So you mentioned $1,000 cell phones. Now, a lot of these kids, when I was a kid, I had no cell phone. When I turned 18, that was when I got my first cell phone. I had this big, crazy block looking, like it's probably still working right now if I find it. I had one of those. It was no smartphone, no full touchscreen, no social media apps, none of that. This is like early 2000s. So the smartphones, social media, TikTok, Instagram, and all these other random apps, Go Live. Like it's so many apps out there that have millions of people on it and a lot of young people on it. I can't even keep up. So how do parents who don't even know what these apps are half the time keep up with them? And how do they combat the influence, especially of the Antichrist called TikTok? How do they keep up with the influence of the social media apps and prevent that from damaging their children?
So one of the things I started asking my children back in 2017, like once I came out of that my own indoctrination, I started asking them up, who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? And so because I'm old school, like I'm looking at phones, I have the password, I'm not asking permission. I don't know. If it's you're under my roof, these are all this is a dictatorship. Okay. This is the only dictatorship that we will have in America. So I don't do, because it's too dangerous. I don't have time to play with the world and, all of these social media things. But I started asking my children, who did they want to be? So if I ever came across something that they were watching or listening to, and it was like not in line with the values that I knew that I wanted instilled into my children, I was like, is this who do you want to be? Is this the type of person that you want to be? And so, and you as a parent, you do a lot of talking and you're saying the same things over and over and over again, and slowly asking. And there are some other questions too that you can start to ask your children to get them to think about who they want to be and the types of friends that they're hanging around and different things like that. But those types of questions get to them to be more introspective in who they are and what they're doing. Is that really who you want to be? Especially with young girls. I know you have the new channel now with Uncle ABL. And so and I think it's really good because, talking about these things, because when you have TikTok and social media, they are, kids don't really date like they used to, and they're not really doing a lot of the normal things like they used to. And so when they're interacting with, like for me, I have daughters. So when they're interacting with boys or boys trying to interact with them, who do you want to be? So when I was asking them these questions, and I'm like, okay, do you want to be the young lady who they're like, the guys he's talking about, he ain't bringing you home to meet his mama though. Like, do you want to be that girl? No, I don't want to be that girl. Okay, well, your actions are going to dictate the kind of girl that you are, and the kind of, and the way that they will treat you. And so those kind of conversations also, led to them making better choices.
Oh, absolutely. Right
Yeah.
on. So we got the technology. That's a big thing, but
Yeah.
there's still some of the old school technology, like I don't know, books. Now I know books have been a really big thing. I've
Mm.
seen was it Amachuku, the pastor. He's
Yes.
been,
Yes.
yeah, he's been going to some of the school board meetings and reading
Hmm.
some of the books, and he's getting kicked out of the school board meetings, reading some of
Right.
the books that are available in school.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, how big of an impact are these books, and is there an ulterior motive to pushing these books? Because again, when I was a kid, I would go to the book fair
Hmm.
and it would be Goosebumps and stuff like this, like books for children that were not inappropriate. Okay, a
Yeah.
little bit scary for me being 7 years old, but nothing like what they
Yeah.
have, which is completely inappropriate. I would be
Yeah.
embarrassed to read that book anywhere, let alone in the school. So, is there a concerted effort to put these kind of books in school? And is it as bad as I think it is, or is it overblown by the media, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it's worse.
Mm,
Because when you demoralize a, a human being, you can literally fill them with anything. There's no standard anymore. And so, in my opinion, that is what they're trying to do. I fervently believe that this is a communist takeover. I mean, they said years ago, Antonio Gramsci, those of you familiar with communism, he said, we're going to have a long march through the institutions. They want their revolution. The BLM ladies, we are trained. This is a quote. We are trained Marxists, so they are intent on tearing down traditions, tearing down valuable institutions, and it's by any means necessary. And so the agenda with the books is to demoralize a child. If I can make you think that, uh, I don't want to say the word on your show, but adult toys
there you go. You get it.
are appropriate for anybody. Let's just talk about it. Let's explore. When you are starting to give children these images, when you are desensitizing them from, because some of these things are natural protections for children are very adverse to sexual images, or too soon. And when they're like pushing it on them and saying, no, this is normal, they get them to say the words. Like some of these they put it in like cartoon form, and it doesn't always come in the books. So they have programs and different resources and stuff that they're using in the schools too, in these sex ed curriculums, and they'll put it in cartoon form and get the kids to actually say the words, to desensitize them, to make it okay. Because children, again, they're not trying to do that when they're little. And so, yes, it is a very concerted effort to demoralize the children, so then they can fill them with anything that they want. And I mean, if you're that, if you don't even have a protection from sex from as a child, you're open to anything.
Mm, that's very well said. Now, going back to public K through 12 school,
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a lot of the LGBT take over. When I'm gonna say take over, I'm talking about the administration, the teachers. Now, some people who happen to be LGBT, they're not trying to bother anybody. When I was a kid, sometimes we had the bull dagger, if that's the appropriate word, PE teacher, and it was okay. Okay, Miss Smith looked like Rick Pitino in the face, or Reggie Miller, but it was fine because she wasn't trying to push any of that on us. She was just throwing us a
Right.
basketball. Let us go
Yeah.
out there and play. It was all good. No
Mhm.
problem. But now we got men wearing dresses, high heels, makeup, box braids, all
Mm-hmm.
colors, white,
Yep.
black, everybody doing this kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
is this an issue that administrations are allowing to happen? Are they encouraging it to happen? And then if you're a teacher in this environment, where's your voice? How are you able to even speak out? Have you talked to anybody that says, hey, like you said in the beginning, that they slid you the material, like, hey, this is what's going on? Are teachers who are against this afraid to speak out, and are they outnumbered by the administration and other colleagues?
So, there is so much, and I'm going somewhere with this. I know this sounds like kind of off topic, but it's not. There's so much money in
Mm.
school. My town where I live, our school budget is bigger than the city budget. We have a 2 billion with a B,
Wow.
a $2 billion, but because you think about it, transportation is tied into it, clothing, the food industry. It's literally, it's like the publishing industry, like every institute, every industry you can think of is tied into
Food
school.
for the school, yeah.
Yes. So it's not merely the teachers, it's not even merely the school boards. It's teachers unions and corporations
Mm.
who are, and government, who are making big money for your kid to be indoctrinated. So when teachers are, they are literally handed down this guidance and say, okay, this is what you have to teach, and you have to teach it by this time. And in the testing industry, that's another industry that's tied into it. You have to teach this stuff. You can't talk about this. If you talk about this, there's like snitches in the schools and it's a big, so even when the teachers who don't want to do it, that's why you got to meet me at the coffee shop, because they are afraid, because it is a huge system that is all intertwined. And it's like, where even is the top? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the superintendents of schools are one of the highest paid people in the community. Like, our superintendent makes almost makes almost $300,000 a year.
That's like politician money.
Okay.
President, yeah.
Exactly. You're almost up there with the president. Good point. And so, like, there is just so much money and power tied to the schooling system. And so, teachers who do want to do the right thing, that's why a lot of teachers have quit. They just don't feel like they can compete with this system. And so, you've got these teachers unions who are the voice of a lot of these, corporations and things like that. And so they're going in and they're making their demands, and they're putting all this money behind candidates and stuff to run for school board. And it's a lot. It is a lot for teachers, the good teachers. It's a lot for them to deal with. The ones who are on board, a lot of them get paid. They get, not just, I haven't really heard of teachers, but the teachers, the school board members getting paid, getting all kinds of perks and stuff for, to push this agenda. So it's a lot for a teacher to try to go up against.
Oh, definitely. So where do you see all this going? There's so much going on. You got a lot of the big money involved. You have the teachers, administrators, the corporations, everybody. And then the kids are suffering. A lot of these kids can't read, but they know how to say LGBT and all the other alphabet letters. They know all the pronouns, and they're playing in kitty litter. Where do you see all this going, especially if there's nothing in the way to try and intervene and get on the right track?
So I think we're seeing it. If nothing is done, the next generation is going to be further left than the current one. I know that's probably hard for people to even imagine.
How is it even possible? Yeah.
Right. How can you even, but believe me, you can be, because even now there's still some Americans who are like, nah, but imagine the children of those Americans who have stayed in the system, who are now the leaders, who are now the school board members, who are now the politicians, who are now they run the court, they're the CEOs, who have now taken over all of these. Now they're running it, and they've sympathized, and they believe that this is the right thing to do, and they bought into the whole thing. You will see an America that is further left than we are today, and is far more vicious, and has far less. There is none of that common sense of American, like, I'm an American, I can say what I want to say. Americans, we have a little bit of like indignation with, we come with a little, like, I'm an American, put some respect on my name. We come with a little bit of that. None of that, because all of these kids think America's terrible. America's terrible. There will be no standing up for America. It will be like, let these other people in to come and show us how things should really be done. So there won't be a pride of having, of what America really stands for. There's still some of that here. We still have some of that, but the longer our kids are in these institutions, and there is no other narrative being presented to them, because think about it, Anthony, it's like, when these kids are sitting in these systems, this public schooling system, there's one narrative that is being pushed. There's never anything that they can compete with. So when they hear something from a conservative, or anything from what they're accustomed to, it's completely foreign. They don't even know. There's never anything else that's presented to them. It is certainly not in a classroom. And most of the time, parents, we've kind of lost the way to connect with our children. Everybody tells us, they're going to want to reject you. They're going to want to just push away from you. I don't believe that. I didn't go through the whole, like, my teenage daughters, they were just, wild and crazy, because thank God I was able to maintain that bond and connection, and my voice was a louder voice in their life. But if we don't, I do believe we will see a generation that is further left than today.
Wow, that's really amazing. Now, before we get to what you have that may be able to help the situation and get things back on the right track, I got to ask you one more question, because you're talking about these kids that don't like America too much. It kind of reminds me of the migrant crisis, because my neighbors are teachers, actually. And one of my neighbors told me that in the class, you get a bunch of migrants from all over the world that speak all kind of different languages.
That's
okay,
right.
You got Mandarin here, Espanol here, French there. You got all kind of languages, all different kind of challenges.
Yeah.
People are on their phone with TikTok. It's a lot of chaos in the classroom, which makes it even harder to teach, even when you want to teach. Plus the specter of the administration saying, "Hey, LGBT." So, have you heard anything from teachers about that element of it? Just all the chaos in the classroom that's being put there against their will, a lot of times by local and federal government.
Absolutely. Even so, teachers have a lot to contend with. So they not only do they want them to be culturally responsible and respectful. So you mean to tell me that a teacher is supposed to be culturally, to know how to deal with every single type, different culture? Like, who can do that? Like, nobody can do that. Like, this is foolishness. But this was even, teachers were complaining about this even before, like, the borders were like wide open. Teachers have had this critical race theory and those types of the social emotional learning and the DEI, those programs had teachers having to be culturally responsible anyway. They were already trying to figure out, like, okay, well, this kid is from, the Middle East, and this one over here is from China, and this one over here. It's like, but you have to be culturally sensitive, to all of these different kids, and that's impossible. And so now you've got kids in your classroom who don't even speak English, and they have the audacity to look at you crazy if you are speaking if you're speaking English, like you should be speaking my language. You should be catering to me because I am the immigrant. I couldn't.
There's
I
no
used to
way.
live in Miami. It was a problem for me then. Like when
Oh yeah, forget about it. It's you in Cuba.
don't come up to me just speaking Spanish. Don't. We're in America. I'm sorry, we're in America. I don't care, wet foot, dry foot, all the foots. I'm sorry. Like this is America. I'm gonna need you to at least there are free English classes.
Yeah.
They're free.
ESL, please let's do it. Let's sign up and get you learning some English.
Right. Yeah, I'm not, as you can see, some of these things, it just presses my buttons. I can't handle it. That's why they're like, oh, Quisha, you should run for office. No, I shouldn't. You don't want me up there. I promise you. I promise you don't.
Hey, they might not want you, but they might need you. So that might have to be, if you called to do it, you might have to do it.
I don't know if that's my calling. I don't think so. Jesus himself would have to come and tell me to do it because I would be on the news and not for good things.
Absolutely. So how can we, try to fix what we got going on? What do you have that can, get us on the right track a little bit, get us away from all this kind of stuff and get us going in the right direction?
Yes. So thank you so much again for having me on. So through the years of going through the school boards and pushing for policy and doing all these external things, I kind of had to pull back and say, okay, what is the real solution? And I honestly feel like I say I hacked the system because I kind of feel like I did. But talking to your children, I know that sounds very simple, but it really did help shield them from the indoctrination. So I created the Raising a Purpose-Driven Child course. It's a comprehensive course that teaches your child how to stop the indoctrination in the classroom when it happens. So there's an there are interactive lessons where I'm in the classroom taking real curriculum, real scenarios that show you how your child can respond respectfully and firmly in the classroom when it happens. So they're not bullied, they're not called out, they're not exposed or anything like that. It also helps you to teach your children how to be self-motivated to learn and critically think, because if our children are in these, if you can't pull them out, you can still reach your child while they're in these indoctrination camps is what I call them. And so while they're there, when they are home, where there is no left, where there is no other narrative, and your voice is the voice that they are listening to, how do you get them to be self-motivated to want to learn again? How do you, where do you start? Because most kids, you ask them like, what do you want to do? I don't know. They have no vision for themselves. They don't know what they want to do. How do you help them find, connect with who they are again? And also the course helps children to helps parents to reconnect with their children. And that's where it starts, rebuilding that bond with your child. Because everybody around us has told us that, our children aren't going to want to be close to us. They're going to want everything else but their parents. I strongly disagree. History says different. Human nature says different. Your children are wired to be close to you. You just have to know how to connect with them again. And there are simple ways, really simple ways to just start having conversations with your children, being honest with them, telling them what's up, what's going on with these systems. Here's a funny thing that we do as parents. So the schools are telling your kids that your parents they're stupid, they're traditional, they're outdated, they're old, they don't know what they're talking about, right? So your kids are hearing this. We tell our kids, listen to your teacher. So if we're telling the children to listen to the teacher and the teacher is saying your parents are stupid, your kids are going to think that you're stupid and you're co-signing it as parents. Just saying.
Like, you don't even know because you were raised to say that, to think that, but you don't understand exactly what's happening inside that classroom.
That's right. And these people are strangers.
Yeah.
We don't know these people. You have to think, I'm sorry, I know there's some great teachers out there, but I don't know you like that. And we don't know who these people are. You do not know who these people are. You just don't. And so you got to treat them like you would treat a stranger. And I don't make no bones about that at all. And I find like as a parent, if you want, you have to prove to me that you are a safe person for my child to be around, for me to send my, we send our children into these people who are literal strangers. We wouldn't do that in any other circumstance. And so I think we need to get back to kind of rethinking how we think about this system and who we're sending our children to every day.
Very well said, because that teacher as a stranger could be a total saint. They could be the best person on planet Earth, but they could also be a complete sinner and the worst person on planet Earth. So
that is correct.
You never know what you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's correct. Yeah.
So I have a link to your course that's going to be in the description box for you guys. Check it out. And I'm going to put the link right here in the chat as well. And people are really enjoying you. They're enjoying the conversation. So
good. Thank you. Thank you.
As I put the link in the chat, I want you to tell everyone how to contact you, how to follow you, social media. You got a show. Like, how can people reach out to you and follow your everyday what you got going on?
Yes, so I'm on Twitter at I'm Quisha K. It's with a Q, Quisha, and say yes, my mama black for real. So I'm Quisha K on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel. It's Quisha King, QUISHAKING. And my email is contact@QuishaKingMedia.com if you have questions. Excuse me, goodness. If you have questions or anything like that. And so I also have the massexodusmovement.com, and that's a website for resources. And if you need more resources to get your kids out of these indoctrination camps, when we were called domestic terrorists. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember those days very well.
Yeah. So I said that was it for me. I'm like, okay, we need a mass exodus from the public school system. And so people really responded to that. So there's resources there. So I'm all over the place, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and find me there.
All right. So perfect. So Quisha King, thank you for joining. I really enjoyed this. And you guys, I'm going to put all your links, everything. I'm going to put it right here in the description. So y'all go check it out. If you got kids in school, if you know anybody with kids in school, they're going to need this information. They need it because the classroom at this point is a war zone. It's crazy. And you got to have the armor, the weaponry to be able to fight off what's happening there. So grandparents, absolutely. You got, you meemaw, pawpaw, you got little grandkids running around. Make sure that they get this and need it for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anthony.
All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate y'all. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. And again, everything, all the links will be in the box. So I will see you guys on the next one.